This case was sent to me by Dr. Jayashankar for opinion. This was the report. Large area of acute infarct involving almost entire right PCA territory, including the right thalamic region, and occlusion of the right internal carotid artery at its origin with absent distal flow signals. So this is the image which was available. The MR shows a large infarct in the PCA territory, occipital lobe. There is infarct in the thalamus also. We don't see anything in the anterior circulation. MCA territory is, ACA territory is normal. This is the MR angio images. Let's try to read the MR angio image. When you are trying to read an angio image, rather than focusing on the image as a whole, it's better to trace one vessel at a time so that it's easy to identify the branches and make out. Because the posterior circulation and the anterior circulation will superimpose on each other in an AP view, making it difficult to make out the branches. Let's try to do that. In this image, this is the left internal carotid artery. In the left internal carotid artery, there is an area of apparent narrowing here. Mind you, this is an artifact. If you look at all MR images, this artifact will be seen. I have made the mistake of doing an angiogram for this such a patient, thinking that it is a stenosis, tight stenosis. It looks like a tight stenosis. The MR angio image is done as two sections, and this area which is the petrous bone is there. Artifacts are bound to happen, and this is an artifact. So we don't have to give much significance to this. In the left internal carotid artery, the cavernous segment is normal. This is the M1 and branches are normal. Both A2s are filling from this side. You can see the anterior communicating artery is patent. The A1 on the opposite side is there, and the MCA branches are there. So the left internal carotid artery is supplying the ipsilateral MCA territory, ipsilateral ACA territory, contralateral ACA territory, and contralateral MCA territory. The opposite internal carotid artery is not seen. So the corresponding internal carotid artery on this side is not seen. So this left internal carotid artery is supplying the whole of anterior circulation, both MCAs and both ACAs. Now let's look at the posterior circulation. This is the vertebral artery on the left side, vertebral artery on the right side. Right side there is a pica which is arising from the right vertebral artery. This is the basilar artery. There is an ICA which is large on this side. There is no pica seen on this side. This is what is called ICA-pica balance. When the ICA is large, the pica is usually small. When the pica is large, ICA is usually small or absent. Basilar artery, there is nothing significant here. But coming distally, you can see the superior cerebellar artery here, superior cerebellar, small superior cerebellar artery here. The left posterior cerebellar artery is seen well. So this is the left posterior cerebellar artery. The right P1 is seen. A little bit of very small compared to the left posterior cerebellar artery. The right posterior cerebellar artery, the P1, the initial part of posterior cerebellar artery, is seen but very small. But you can see that there is a distinct cutoff beyond that. So this PCA is occluded, the left PCA, the right PCA. So that is corresponding to the occlusion. Coming to the cervical, the neck part, this is one area where we have to spend some time. Let's try to read this angio and try to make out as much as possible. This is the arch. So always try to look at the arch and see the origin of the great vessels. Starting from here, this is the arch, this is the right side and this is the left side. This is the right brachiocephalic trunk. Brachiocephalic means it gives the subclavian artery as well as the common carotid artery. So this is the subclavian artery and this is the common carotid artery. If you trace now, when the main dictum is you try to trace, we should try to trace one vessel at a time. So it's easy to follow up that vessel, forget about the rest of the vessels. This is the common carotid artery, and which is continuing as the external carotid artery. You don't see the internal carotid artery is not seen here. We don't see the internal carotid artery. It's ending at the origin itself, it's totally occluded. from the right subclavian artery, we can see the vertebral artery rising and going distally and joining here. So this is the vertebral artery. Then coming to the arch again, the second vessel which is arising from the arch is the left common carotid artery. The left common carotid artery, this is the normal origin from the arch itself. Left large common carotid artery. It's dividing into two, the external carotid artery and the internal carotid artery. In an AP view, the internal carotid artery is lateral and the external carotid artery is medial. We can make out this very well, but the origin of internal carotid artery is normal. The cervical internal carotid artery is normal. So this is the area which I told you, the petrous segment there is bound to have artifacts because of the bone. It need not be significant. So there is nothing that can be commented on the left internal carotid artery. And the third vessel which is arising is behind this left. What we see here is the left subclavian artery, and the vertebral artery origin is actually seen behind the left common carotid artery. You can see a tortuous origin here. So when we try to focus on one vessel, we can see it very clearly. It is arising behind that. So it's so overlapping on that. The vertebral artery, there is a tortuous origin coming like this, and that is continuing as the vertebral artery. Nothing much to comment on that. So that is all. Now, how did the stroke happen? The common dictum is we should try to explain everything by a single site of lesion. That is the common rule in neurology. If you are able to explain this, so can a carotid occlusion, this is what is seen, the carotid is occluded. Can a carotid occlusion lead to a PCA infarct? Let's see how it can happen. This is not the angio of the same patient, but I am showing a representative angiogram of a fetal PCA. This is the internal carotid artery, and the first artery which goes posteriorly, a large artery, this is the posterior communicating artery which is continuing as the posterior cerebral artery. So this is it's a large artery, and this is the main supply. This is called the fetal PCA, fetal posterior cerebral artery, which is arising. So just imagine, suppose if this carotid is occluded, the posterior cerebral artery obviously can get occluded. The thrombus, any embolism from here can go into the posterior cerebral artery also. Now let's have a look at what are the variants of fetal PCA. This is a diagrammatic representation. This is the basilar artery, both posterior cerebral arteries. Internal carotid artery coming from underneath and then continuing as a middle cerebral artery, anterior cerebral artery, anterior communicating artery. Now the communication between the posterior cerebral artery and the internal carotid artery is the posterior communicating artery. Here this is a posterior communicating artery, but the P1 is equally large, the posterior cerebral artery is equally large. So there is equal contribution from the basilar artery and the anterior circulation. This is a situation where even if there is some atherosclerotic change here, nothing will happen to the posterior cerebral artery. In a situation number 2, where the P1 segment, there is no connection between the posterior cerebral to the basilar. P1 is hypoplastic or absent, aplastic. So this is a classical, typical fetal PCA. That means the anterior circulation, the carotid artery is supplying the posterior cerebral artery. So the PCA, the posterior occipital lobe in this situation becomes part of the anterior circulation itself. So this carotid artery is supplying the MCA territory, the anterior cerebral ACA territory, and the PCA territory. I think it's clear. The third situation is there is a hypoplastic P1. This P1 is very small in size, but the major contribution is from the posterior cerebral artery. Our case also looks something similar to this. We see this hypoplastic small P1 here, but the major contribution is from the anterior circulation. So hypothetically, this particular patient could have had, so now let us look back at the angio. It looks like the P1 on this side was hypoplastic. There could have been an internal carotid artery which was supplying the posterior cerebral artery also, which got occluded. But since the ACOM was patent and there was a good collateral flow from the opposite side, the MCA territory did not suffer anything, and it was the PCA territory which suffered the brunt of the injury. Now, how to manage this patient? First and foremost, all these patients should be evaluated in detail for an embolic source like atrial fibrillation or any other source of emboli. The heart should be evaluated in detail. If nothing is found, and if when the carotid is totally occluded, completely occluded, the chance of embolism from that territory is significantly less, but still it can happen. We'll come to in the later episodes. So in this particular patient, the management should depend, it should be dual antiplatelet medication, high dose atorvastatin, and risk factor modification. Now when you look back at the previous image, we can make out that this MCA territory and this ACA territory, or this carotid, is supplying the whole of anterior circulation. 4 territories it is supplying. 1 the MCA, 2 the ipsilateral ACA, contralateral ACA, and contralateral MCA. So this collateral flow should be maintained by an adequate perfusion pressure, which will depend upon the mean arterial pressure. So these patients, when they have an episode of hypotension, they can have episodes of hemodynamic stroke. So maintain the BP at a marginally higher level. Hemorheological management, that means factors which increase the viscosity should be controlled, like hemoglobin. Any other factor which increases the viscosity should be reduced. Dual antiplatelet medication will be ideal. There is no definite role for anticoagulation in this particular patient. The patient should be kept on strict follow-up and to see that whether the patient is continuing to have symptoms, in which case the BP should be marginally elevated, and if there is any elevated hemoglobin, that should be looked into.